Suits season 6, episode 11. So let's get this thing started because this was actually a pretty good episode. Suits is back from the mid-season finale, and now we have our mid-season premiere. This was overall a pretty good episode. I thought this episode was very much the episode where we start to see the changes starting to happen, especially after Jessica pretty much left the firm. So let's get into this thing right now, because what I liked about this episode was that the overall theme was family. Not Vin Diesel type of family, but family nonetheless, and just kind of like loyalty. And I really did kind of like them themes that kind of pretty much started from the beginning and pretty much started or pretty much ended all the way close right at the end pretty much. So let's get into this thing, some good things, some bad things, just overall thoughts, right? So we kick off this episode, right, with Harvey and Donna pretty much, lovey-dovey. And the moment that music kind of hit it, I was just like, this thing is clearly not right. Something seems off about it. And it was a little bit too good to be true. And then it turns out that Harvey tends to kind of have very weird, wet dreams that actually manage to become nightmares. And I'm pretty sure we all kind of have that type of thing going on. But pretty much they're kissing lovey-dovey, and then out of nowhere, Donna pretty much says that Jessica's not coming back, and Harvey's just like, don't leave me. And then I thought this dream sequence was very interesting because it showed that Harvey really does have abandonment issues, and he is afraid to kind of lose his family, and he really does rely on Jessica and Mike and even Lewis. He's like that unwanted cousin, so to speak, and a part of the family for the most part. And I thought this was a pretty good dream sequence. Or nightmare sequence, really, and I think it added a little bit more to Harvey's character. Because if you've seen Harvey's character from the very beginning, right, he was just very overly confident. You didn't really know too much about him. He was kind of like a Don Draper of sorts, but you didn't know much about him. And now that you've seen the character kind of progress, you've seen him more broken down. And I think this episode kind of showed that this guy is pretty fragile, especially when it comes to the family situation. And that's a very unfortunate thing to see, but that would be a theme that kind of was started at the very beginning, and also would be something that kind of ends the thing off, just to begin with. Now, a couple other things that really happened in this episode was Rachel. Rachel is pretty much getting proposals left and right, offers left and right all around, one from her father and pretty much one from Prince Harry. So it doesn't really matter much. So let's talk about Rachel and her father. So she pretty much gets offered a job by Robert Zane, which is her dad, obviously. Now, this isn't really shocking per se, because let's be real here. Robert Zane has always kind of made his intentions pretty clear. He cares about his daughter, and he doesn't really give a shit about the firm. So that makes sense. But unfortunately, his daughter is actually working for the firm, so he actually has to kind of care. So what he pretty much does is offer her a job, once she passes the bar, to kind of work for him, because most likely nobody's going to really take notice of her, even if she does pass. Most likely if Pierce Inspector Lit actually kind of falters. So I think that was kind of interesting. His intentions were good, but he does kind of come across as a little bit of a dick. But then again, he's bunk, so why not? But I thought Robert Zane was actually pretty good in this episode, but he wouldn't really stop there, because apparently eventually later on, he would pretty much come to Pierce Inspector Lit, and he would kind of question Harvey and Lewis's integrity, or at least their leadership skills, and kind of rile them up a bit. But it looked like his intentions are trying to fuck with the firm, but it would actually turn out he was actually trying to save the firm just to begin with. So he's a very interesting type of dude, Robert Zane. But the moment he told Harvey, like, shut that shit down, I was just like, yeah, that blackness is kind of coming out of you just to begin with. But as soon as he pretty much questions their, leadership skills and who should be managing partner, now that Jessica's pretty much gone, Lewis kind of does what he does best, and he tends to kind of, go into a situation guns blazing and not really thinking about it. So he tends to say, fuck it, I'm going after Robert Zane, I'm bringing back Katrina, not Hurricane Katrina, I'm just taking it all down one by one, and he doesn't realize the consequences of his actions. Donna said it, Gretchen was saying it, even Katrina was saying it. But he doesn't really understand until he finally does fuck up, and then he realized that he should not be managing partner. Now, he's had a lot of mistakes in his life, and maybe one of them is actually going to be coming up soon, because apparently Lewis is not having a kid, but he's going to have a kid with his last name. Now, this relationship, I don't think is really going to work well. It's nice to see Lewis with a pretty hot chick, but let's be real here. I don't think this is really going to turn out that well. It could be, it could not be, I don't know. But he seemed very excited. Like, he literally looked like he was about to come, because he heard that the kid's going to have his last name. He's like, because the moment the girl said, he's going to be a Lit, or we're going to be a Lit, he was just like, oh, he got very excited. So I liked that for the most part. Now, Harvey and Mike, let's talk about their thing. Right? Harvey and Mike was a very interesting thing per se because Harvey's trying to get the firm back together. He wants to kind of build back his family, right? Because as I said, the abandonment issues. The problem is Mike doesn't really want to come back. Mike pretty much comes to his house. They pretty much says, I'm not really going to take your offer that he pretty much offered him in the last, the mid-season finale. And he pretty much says, I'm not really going to be coming back. Here's the thing about this. They kind of have this big argument. He doesn't want to come, whatever. He says, take a month, whatever it may be. Mike says, fuck off. I'm not really going to do that. Now, here's the thing about the argument. It makes complete sense why Mike wouldn't want to come back. But at the same time, I would have at least taken the month or at least looked it over because let's be real here. The guy did get you out of prison. He saved your ass from getting shanked. He saved you from possibly getting fucked. I would have at least taken his offer for at least a month, but I understand what he meant. If you become an addict, then you just constantly keep on forcing the habit. So I understood that, but then he starts looking for jobs and everybody keeps on like turning him down left and right, or at least he thinks they would because of his, his conviction for the most part. Now it's very tough to kind of do something that you love and eventually somebody tells you that you can't do it anymore. So I could relate to that in some ways. I'm sure everybody could. But eventually he pretty much gets a teaching position at the church. The father kind of offers him a job. And I thought it was kind of like something coming full circle. And I thought that was actually pretty good. The problem is once they give him the teaching job, it just kind of ends. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the kids were kind of a bit of pricks. And the kid in the back, which I think had an Irish accent. Unfortunately, I thought they were going to kind of do like a mentor-mentee thing, kind of like a protege. Mike sees himself in that kid, but unfortunately they just kind of got rid of it because the kids kind of show his record to parents and they kind of shut that shit down and he had to leave. And it was just like, well, what was the point of that? I hope that's not the end. But then again, it was a storyline I probably wouldn't really have cared for that much anyway. But overall, I thought it was actually pretty good. Now, Harvey has this conversation with Donna. She says, help out Mike, do something, whatever it may be. Harvey's doing that. Luce is pretty much going spearheaded into any situation. Harvey's trying to go to, this professor, I forgot his name, but the guy in Boston. Then he also goes to Anita Gibb, which is still pretty much a bad thing. Now, Anita Gibb is like a dog with a bone. She just won't stop, right? But the only thing that's worse than a dog that won't let go pretty much of a bone is a cunty dog with a bone. And Anita Gibb is pretty much still a cunty, scary dog with a bone. He pretty much goes her to kind of help Mike in getting back to becoming a lawyer. But apparently she says that's not going to happen. In fact, if she even catches Mike, trying to get into law anywhere, she will literally make it her life's mission to kind of fuck up his life. And I thought that was kind of a fucked up thing. But then again, that's kind of who she was. He wasn't even on her radar, as they would eventually say, because they would have another argument, Harvey and Mike. And I thought that was also pretty good because, like I said, Mike right now is in that kind of like rebuilding phase. And so same thing for Harvey. Their actions are all kind of coming into contact. I feel like Mike Ross is, his entire big dilemma with not being a full lawyer is pretty much taking full effect on everybody, from Rachel to Harvey to whatever. But that's pretty much what it was. Harvey seemed like he just wanted his family back once again, and Mike just was like, I'm not coming back. In fact, if I ever practice law again, I'm never coming back to this place, ever. So, like I said, it's kind of like a child leaving, a parent, so to speak. Because Mike, I would like to say, is kind of like Harvey's son in some way, or a brother, I guess, in some people's eyes. Now, at the end of the day, pretty much Lewis pretty much realizes that he fucked up, as I said, clearly. And I thought one of the coolest things that kind of happened in this episode, or who was very underrated in this episode, was actually Gretchen. She had a good conversation with Rachel, telling her about the law firm or whatever it may be, and that you got to handle your own situation, you got to do you. And I thought that was pretty good. And her conversation with Lewis and her conversations with, I believe, Donna. But overall, Gretchen was pretty underrated in this episode, and I thought she was really fantastic. But one of the saddest things I thought, or one of the more emotional things, was when Harvey kind of confronts Lewis. Lewis is about to tell him that he doesn't need to be managing partner. He realizes that. But when Harvey's just kind of like yelling at him right after the Mike confrontation, I was just like, damn, you really do kind of put Lewis down very, very easily. And I felt sad for the guy. I felt like if there's anybody that has emotional moments on the show they kind of feel sad for, it's always Lewis, unfortunately. But he realized it, and he realized Harvey was actually correctly. Gretchen, once again, kind of does a pretty good performance. And then, Donna has this conversation with Harvey, pretty much telling him that maybe you just need to kind of reconcile with your own family. Jessica's not coming back, which brings it right back to where we kind of started at the very beginning, the dream sequence. and then he pretty much needs to reconcile with his actual family because Pierce Inspector Lit is not going to kind of cut it. And then that's kind of how we ended. But also Lewis, after talking to Gretchen, realizes Gretchen pretty much tells him that maybe Rachel should actually be rewarded for her loyalty because she's pretty much still sticking with the firm that she could have easily left quite a time ago. But he pretty much awards her with like second year associate, I believe. And that's pretty much how we ended. Harvey is possibly going to reconcile with his family. And now Rachel is moving up in the, she's moving up in the world. Literally. She's going up for the associate. She's becoming probably the next princess of England. So who knows? But overall, this was actually a good episode that I feel like the ramifications of Mike Ross is still coming in contact. And they're not just like throwing it away because that would have been kind of foolish because this shit is prison. And I did think it was kind of funny that the kids said, the kids in the church school or whatever, was like, did you drop the soap? I don't know why, but I thought that was actually kind of funny. And also, Mike Ross was trying to act like he was a hard criminal. I've been in prison, And I was just like, dude, what did you do in prison? Like, how did you get there? He was just like, you don't want to know how I got there. I was just like, you fake being a lawyer. You're not a tough guy. You're not from Compton. I was like, what kind of criminal are you? But either way, I thought this was actually a pretty good episode. If you actually enjoyed this review, you can comment, subscribe, and like. But particularly, you also share this video because that would help out a lot. I'm Chris Smith, and I'm signing out.